Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Hi-Fi Rush Rhythm Master video walkthrough. We are on track 4, less budget, more problems. You might notice as well, guys, if you can hear the gameplay in the background, that I don't have the songs on in the game. I did indeed use the streamer mode to record this so YouTube didn't get any weird ideas about giving people money. All of those 7 cents I'll make on this video going to some scummy corporation that shouldn't exist. And my experience of playing with the streamer songs has been actually quite pleasant. I don't think any of them are particularly bad. One that did jar a little bit, because I just don't think it's as good as the intended experience, is when you get to the dropping the needle level, the level before the final boss. I think the song really fits there, and it's a really, really wonderful moment in the game. I think it's the best level in the game as well. It might not perhaps be my favourite, but I definitely think it's the best, just by a design point. And the song they put there just jarred a little bit because it sounded wrong. But it's like anything else, if you get used to it, I would imagine it's absolutely fine. But after the augmented reality, you'll notice we've come back into the volcano. And I really like the volcano areas, and I like the idea of the construction robots. I would have loved to see some robots that had construction helmets on, because you do see some later on, but they're NPCs, but I love the idea of like fighting against robots wearing construction helmets. I just think that the joke there it sells itself, doesn't it? It's just funny, the idea of robots taking safety seriously. That tickles me. But we've got Macaron now, guys, and Macaron is amazing, incredibly good assist. So previously we've been using Peppermint to put stuns on people and do juggles and put damage down the lane. Now we have the big guy, the guy that comes in and hits them really hard. He also has the capacity to break armor, so that monster that beat us in the previous video, Macaron's going to help us get through his impregnable defense. And one of the things you want to get into the habit of doing, guys, I'm not showing the shop. Oh, I fucked this up a few times, so get ready for this. But I've not been showing the shop, not because I want to hide what I'm doing. It's just purely because I want the videos to be a little shorter than they are. The videos are already really long, and long videos don't do too well on YouTube now, thanks to, I would imagine it's the TikTok generation. Because you can't win, can you? You either have to make a really short video, or a 10-hour long critique where you don't critique anything and everybody wonders what the fuck you're on about because you make no sense. There's no middle ground. But I trimmed the shops out, suffice to say, just to make the viewing experience a little bit more fluid. And what I'm doing, guys, is I'm buying the moves I like. For instance, I mentioned the juggles, I mentioned the combo on the ground. And I'm saving up as many cogs as I can to get some tools. Initially in the walkthrough, I was going to give you the idea of saving up for 808 so you can get that really powerful 10x multiplier and that huge damage boost. But you don't get that until you beat the game. It's kind of the Shaolin fist of this game, and it's just not available. So instead of saving the 100 grand for that, which is what I was originally doing, I was doing two things. I was making sure that when I unlocked a character, an assist, I could buy all their moves immediately. I recommend you do the same. Not only will you be able to get single reverb finishers, which are really, really strong, but you will also be able to get their charge moves, which are also really strong. So each character has a charged version of their attack. Peppermint's is a big laser that does more damage and breaks shields quicker. And Macaron's, he drops this big area of, it's almost like higher gravity, where it slows enemies down inside. It seems to neutralize them from doing anything because they're stunned. And when you attack enemies within its field, you do more damage. It doesn't work on bosses, but I still use it anyway because it's really, really good for trying to do lockdown strategies. And the idea is, if you can stick that out when you punish a monster, you're just going to do more damage and have more control. And it bleeds into itself and leads into much more opportunities. So having access to that, really, really powerful. And then the parry moves that you get, where when you parry the beat after, you can use a reverb bar to bring in an assist and do a counterattack. Those moves are really good too, because they have properties that go through the bullshit that you're fighting against. So a good example is when you fight Kale at the end of the game, on that phase where he has the arms, if you parry him and you use the assist on the riposte, the assist will start hitting him and keep your rank up. So if you're having trouble there by getting the rank to decay and dying, you can do that to save yourself. There's lots of little implementations that are really, really handy. And the reverb is an interesting mechanic I need to talk about because it works in a pretty stupid way if you ask me. But we need to talk about this guy because this enemy's really dangerous until you learn him. He's really cute as well, but he's an asshole. So I bring Macaron in to hit him, and I'm going to jump in front of him again and try and hit him in the face. I do my super on him, and right there, he does his attack, which we get the parry, and we break him. So now we've stunned him, we're going to launch him, we're going to do full combos, we're going to bring everybody in, we're going to go to absolute town and get some vengeance on him. And apparently my timing was bad, which is always fun. Which is sad to see, but, you know, my ego will be fine. But when you use your assists, they lead to interesting situations. So if you spend a bar of reverb to do one of their enders, a lot of the times they will launch them, or they'll put them into a juggle state. So you can go between them, hitting them to the ground, then magneting towards them, and you can extend your combos. And once you know what all the moves do, and you've got a really, really good idea of when to use them, you can start chaining things together and going between multiple assists, building back the reverb during the combo, banking it again, and before you know it, you'll be doing really cool looking stuff, and the whole thing's going to feel amazing. And that's pretty much how the gameplay of Hi-Fi Rush is eked out to the player. They incrementally give you these tools and they let you play with them, and then they bring a problem for you to solve that involves using everything you've learned. And by the time you get to about two more tracks ahead of this, you're going to have almost everything in the game. And then it's going to be entirely up to you on how you use it. And at first you might get frustrated because you don't have the money to buy what you want. You might be like me and you might want everything and want to use everything and just jump into the deep end. But I think it's clever that the game mitigates that by making you have to buy a lot of it. Because if they overwhelmed you immediately with all the things that you can do, I think a lot of players would struggle. And if you're not struggling with it, guys, it means that you have an aptitude to the game, or you've played a lot of similar things, because this is easily one of the biggest difficulty curves I've seen in a while. It reminds me of Wonderful 101, and I say that in the best possible way, because Wonderful 101 is an amazing game. But it's a hard game to play, and it's a hard game to understand immediately. Obviously, once you learn it, it becomes very simple and very intuitive and just really, really clever and really fun and really cool. But if you never get there, it's just a messy, confusing, like overwhelming... It's just a Jackson Pollock of the screen, isn't it? Where you just have no idea what you're looking at and everything just looks so colourful. And I do think that this game probably has a little bit of that too, because I'm noticing a lot of people mentioning that it feels unfair where they get shot off screen, and it feels unfair because they can't see enemies and they can't do things like camera manipulation. And I get you completely, I do, but it's one of those cases of the more you do it, the less that becomes an issue. And I don't think that gets rid of the issue, because it doesn't. I just think it makes it easier to deal with, and then later on you won't see it as a problem because you have the tools to deal with it. And I'm always conflicted on analysing that kind of design, because do you say that's bad design because they shoot you from off screen and that's fundamentally unfair? Or do you say that that is a consequence of all of these factors interacting with each other? Because if you think about it, if you didn't have those guys with the gun shooting you from off screen, what would they have done for that enemy? What would they have done in that fight? Just added more people with swords? If there was never a risk of someone attacking you from long range, where is the risk of dilly-dallying or like locking down? Because combat, in its rudiments, is all about putting together pieces that dictate certain responses. And depending on the synergy and how they coexist, depends on how fun that difficulty is. And I'm not going to say I don't get frustrated at the gun guys. Wait till we get to the flamethrower gun guys, who you can't launch. Those guys make me want to break things. But again, I think that's because of my inexperience. It's just one of those things, you know? When you don't have the skills and the tools and the experience, things can seem way worse than they are. And there's a few fights in this guide that seem way worse than they are because I just don't have the right tools. But the more you play, the more that's going to change. And it doesn't feel cheap either, which is nice. Although I do think there's a couple of scenarios on this difficulty that are cheap. But again, it's just because of the killing you when you hit a D. And I've been thinking about, you know, how do you go against killing people that quickly? Because most of the encounters, you'll never even worry about dropping rank because your rank's fine. You could button mash and keep that rank up. It wouldn't be a problem. As long as you're dodging, you'd be absolutely fine. But in those moments where there's nothing happening and you have to survive, and then there's a very small window where you do something to keep yourself alive, and then you have to be really aggressive because if you don't, you just die. In those moments, I do wish that the developers had maybe tested it a bit more and gone in there and made it so that either your rank starts at a higher rate or that it decays at a slower rate, because as it stands, there are certain parts, there's about 4 parts in the game where they give you control, and before you even realise what you're doing, you die. And that's the type of thing that will only happen a few times, because you'll realise quickly that, hang on a second, I need to do something here. And then you're just going to get desperate and really aggressive, and you're going to overextend, and you're going to figure out the best way of dealing with it, and you're going to stay alive. And then the next time you do it, you're going to go, oh yeah, this is that bit where I've got to go like a lunatic and do this, 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 and this, and this, or I die. And once you have that piece put in the jigsaw, you have the picture, don't you? You have what the solution is. But I don't really like that, personally. To me, it feels cheap. Like, this is a good example right here. We can't break this guy's shield without using Macaron, and I'm messing around with parries here with him to see if this works at all, because I want to get my rank up quite high. I've got it to a B there, which is not too bad. But in this fight, you know, if you stand around waiting for him to attack, you'll just die. Because you can't. The enemies aren't aggressive enough for that to be a thing. Like, if it's an enemy where you have to parry them to stay alive, if they delay, you're dead. And you can't do anything. And it's not that you didn't do the right thing. What if you can't attack them? And they obviously did go in there and check it, and maybe they wanted it to be really jarringly difficult and really harsh. And I suppose they accomplished it. I just checked the trophy as well to see how many people have beat the difficulty on Steam. 0.1% of players who own this game have beat the difficulty. That just goes to show how demanding the game is.
Let's go.
But here we go, shield guys, in another one of the augmented reality rooms. And then we have the beam people with them. And here again, isolate the beam enemies, get rid of the gunners, and then go in for the shield guys. And what you want to do here, guys, when you're doing these aerial juggles, call in Macaron. Macaron will never go in the sky with you to attack, he'll attack the ground where you are, so you can use him to break the shields while you're doing a combo. It's the best thing to do. And then when you come down, you'll have 2 people stunned, and then you can do a double juggle like this, which is actually quite rare. Juggling multiple enemies in this game is kind of hard to do, and I really wish there was a move that brought people to you like a vacuum so you could do those multi-hitting combos and get a really cool bonus. And maybe you can. Maybe I just don't know how to do that yet. But I also have the grapple backstab. I don't know if you noticed, guys. So there's a move in the shop where when you grapple to somebody, if you press grapple again as you get to them, you'll go over their back instead of staying in their face, and they get stunned because they look around and they don't know where you've gone. And it's really, really good because it shuts enemies down. And if you've ever played Transformers Devastation, played as Bumblebee, when Bumblebee slides under somebody and he goes behind them, it's similar to that. It's not quite as powerful as that, but it gets the job done. And whenever you magnet somebody, it's a good idea to go behind them instead, because it gives you a free opportunity to hit them with almost anything. And you can literally magnet an enemy, do one combo, magnet another enemy, do a different combo, and cycle through all your moves and get tons and tons of score without having to be very good at the game. You can turn it into a spreadsheet if you want to, guys. And then we have the Kale statue, as we're breaking Zanso's budget. I also don't know the best way to attack these statues, so I always do square into triangle, into mash triangle, because it hits a lot, and it seems like it does good damage. It's one of my favourite combos in the game, but I always fuck it up, because I accidentally do the square triangle triangle, because I time it wrong, because I don't really like mashing in this game, it makes me feel weird. I don't know if you feel the same, guys, but because you get so used to trying to hit the beat, and you want to be on time, it disincentivizes you from doing certain things. And later on, when I buy more moves, you're going to notice that my ranks start to get a little worse on my timing. And it's just because I try to do one move, and then I realize I don't know the timing of it. So I'm not doing it right. And I'll get a few hays, and then for the most, I'm just like, nope, nope, nope. And that's one of the dangers of not knowing the timing on the moves. But that comes with more playtime, you know? More experience, that shit happens. And as it stands, I think there's about 4 combos I don't know when to press the buttons on, but I can kind of guess. Everything else I'm really confident with. But the few of them, like, you know, the ones that launch into the air mid-combo, I don't know the timing on those ones, because they seem like you're doing lots of hits, but you don't actually press the button a lot. And then we move into another augmented room, and this takes us into a volcano, which I really like this sequence because I think it's funny. I just wish it had been somewhere else. I really do. Like, I wish it would have been in the middle of a jungle, or with dinosaurs or something, like holographic dinosaurs and things. Like, I just think that they could have done so much here. And I think that's the merit of Hi-Fi Rush. When you have me going, oh, you could have done this, you know what you did was awesome because it made me think of a million creative things inspired by how awesome your game was. And in any ways, it's like an underhanded compliment, isn't it? When I'm asking for things to be different, it's because what you did was cool, I wanted more cool. And I know that might sound insane to some people, but there's a big difference between, you know, changing fundamental mechanics and calling them better, and actually doing something really cool that could have been cooler. But this is a difficult fight, this, guys. You have two men with swords, and you have the wonderful, I think he's called like Salako or something, which is that an Aliens reference? I don't know where I'm getting that from, but my brain's being weird. Anyhow, bicycle man with spear and shield bullshit needs to die immediately, but Magnet will not lock onto him, thus I'm in a shit show right now and getting steadily more frustrated with the game. So I pull out the super to break the shield staff, and then I'm going to come in and start attacking him and try and stun him. There's the sword hit, there's the parry. Now we have the parry, guys, we can stay in the pocket, watching what the enemies do, getting those parries, and then we need to focus on this dude, isolate him, and then jack him up. But I get hit then, because I'm bad at the game. Which is something I need to talk about, actually. Did you notice that the enemy held his sword up in a guarding stance? Whenever an enemy does that, if you attack them, they will always counter-attack. It's a really, really good tool for getting an attack when you want it, and if you learn to do it now, it will pay dividends for later on, because you have to do it in the second phase against Kale. Because if you don't promote his counterattack, you tend to decay rank, and you run the risk of not being in a good position. But here's the next phase. We've got a baboon, and we've got a shield guy. I'm going to immediately go for the stun on the baboon, because he's kind of the problematic guy. I get the parry, I get the stun, I get the launcher. And now we do the square Y into square Y, and then I delay it to do another combo to keep him in the air for a bit longer, and then I come down and I get hit by the status effect that irritates me most in the entire game. So let's talk about fire, shall we? This is a volcano, I don't mind getting set on fire, that's my fault. Fire in general, though, is too strong. It's way too strong. I'd rather it kill me instantly than do what it does in this game. When you get set on fire, you lose control of your character. You cannot do anything until you put it out. You have to twaddle the analog and waggle it really fast to get it off. I don't like doing that. I hate that design. There are few things in character action games that I vehemently despise. This is one of them. This Resident Evil 4 breaking your fucking analog bullshit, ruining your dead zone garbage needs to die. And if I ever talk to the director, I'm going to pass these words on to him, because he seems like an up-and-coming dev. You know, he's got some cool games under his belt. He's done a majestic job with this one. He could be the next, you know, Kamiya. He could be the next Itagaki. He could be the next Mikami. Who knows? The guy's future's really, really bright. But you have to cut the fucking analog waggling. No one likes doing it. It's annoying as fuck. It's terrible. And there are so many better ways it could have been done, in my opinion. Why not make it so that you have to press dodge on the beat to put the fire out? Like, there are so many things they could have done that would have been rhythmic, and instead they want you to smash your controller. Controllers cost £70 now. £70 for a controller that might break because you're fucking trying to get a zombie off you. Like, I hate it, guys. I hate it. And it gets worse because here's why it sucks. In the heat of battle, you get set on fire. You have to waggle the analog to get it off you, and it doesn't do it immediately. It takes a bit of time. During that duration, you can be attacked, and you cannot do anything. And the hardest fight in this game, guys, has electric floors with enemies that set you on fire. So you get set on fire, you can't move, someone attacks you, you can't move, then the floor electrocutes you, you can't move, and then someone kills you. And that's why I hate that fight, and that's why I think it's the hardest fight in the game, because it puts two things together that should never be together, because both of them do the same thing, and the thing that they do is really, really annoying. And obviously, can it be done? Yes, it can. I've done it. You've done it, you know? But just because it can be done doesn't mean it's good, or well designed. And I do think that they probably laboured over the design of that quite a lot, because it's very demanding. But I don't like it. And I'd change it in so many ways because I don't like it. And I don't want it to come from a perspective of, oh, you don't like it, so it must be different, because it's not really who I am. Like, there's lots of things I don't like that I can see the merit of and I can understand, and I can get on with it and deal with it and put aside my own personal grievances. But this one I can't. Because I did this whole walkthrough, dying maybe 1 or 2 times on the tough fights and everything else I did on the first attempt. And then that fight killed me like 10, 12 times. You know, like, there's a difference between all the other fights in that one. And the area where I know that there's something wrong, if you took the enemies in the waves, because there's 3 waves on that fight, if you put them on a different room, I wouldn't have a problem with the fight. But the way they've put it and the way they've designed it, I don't think any of it complements each other, and it turns it into something way, way too frustrating for what it is. And this game is really good at its difficulty and it's really good at its design, so that room to me stands out big time. And I'll be really interested to see what people say and see how you get on with it, because maybe you think it's fine and you didn't even notice it. Maybe you're that good, or you like those kind of area of denial moments. But I got so tilted on that room when I did it, I had to turn the game off and do something else and then record later the next day, because I physically don't like it, you know? And when I don't like something, I don't want to do it. And I know it sounds very childish, you know, throwing the dummy out of the cot and everything, but like, I'm old enough now where if I'm not having fun in something I'm doing that's meant to be fun and I'm choosing to do it, I'm not going to do it. And you might be thinking, well, Chris, how do you do any of your other projects? Your channel's filled with all these things that don't seem very fun. And, you know, sometimes they're not that fun, but fundamentally I'm having a good time. I'm having a great time. Like this fight right here, I love this fight. This fight's really hard. It's especially hard if you don't know how to fight the Brutal, and right now I've not seen him for a while and I have no idea what I'm doing. Don't know any of his attacks, don't know any of the parry timings, but I know this one, because it goes bum, 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 bum. Like that. And there you go, that's the end of him. And I get a terrible rank, but it's all good, guys. We can always get better, we can always play better. And the song here is really good too. This is one of the best like ambient tracks playing in the game, because it really gets you into it. But we've got Cinnamon here giving us some advice as we break another eye. I think the reason that I don't like this level as much as I want to is because we're essentially doing the same thing repeatedly. And I know video games are always about doing the same thing repeatedly, but there are moments where you don't notice and there are moments when you do. So having us going to 3 different augment reality chambers to do 3 different zones and kill 3 different eyes, my brain's going, hang on a second here, I see the magician, and I see his assistant, and I see the magic. I'm not supposed to see the magic. But this is awesome, this, because you're introduced to the chain sequences again. And then we have the dodging the crates and the synchronized grappling hook mechanic. So you've seen this before, but this one is one of the better ones because it immediately wants you to do things where you're interacting. I wish you had to dodge those pipes though, that must be said. And these are cool. But show of hands guys, how many people here thought on harder difficulties these would be way more intensive and way more demanding? Like, I think they missed a trick not adding more environmental hazards here. Like, I want to turn that whole rope into dodges. Like, I say rope, it's a pipe. But turn that entire journey into dodges like I'm playing some straight up, you know, I don't even know, Dance Dance Revolution game. I want to be doing a million things on that pipe, and I want it to be all to the beat. I think it would work really well. Anyhow, we got a fight though. Fight against a laser guy with a baboon. We broke his shield, we're going in with some assists. We got Macron coming out. We're going in. There's the move I really, really like. And what I'm going to do, guys, I might as well mention it here. I'm going to go into training mode, and I'm going to record, like, every enemy, slash every move, slash every hit, slash every stun. And I'm going to figure out what damage the moves do. I'm going to figure out what stun the moves do to see which ones are best to get to that threshold. And I'm going to do all this testing on the hardest difficulty, so that when you play on the easiest difficulty, or the easier ones, it will be way better. And I'm going to find out, like, what is the combo to do when you don't get a big window but you need to just hit really hard? Which is the one that's good for like doing damage over a certain set amount of time? Like, I want to know everything. I want to know what all the damage thresholds are. Like, I want to know how close to stun I am when I'm doing things. Like, I want to learn all of it. And because there's a training mode where I can turn the AI off the enemies, and I can spawn enemies on demand, I can also put HP on so I can learn all of this. And if I put it into a video, I can tell it you. And you don't have to do all the labbing, and then we'll have some information about what's going on. And you'll know, is it worthwhile doing an ender with Macron, or doing an ender with with peppermint and, you know, where do I want to spend my resources? Do I want this super? Do I want that super? What super does the most damage? Like, I'm gonna do a dive deep on some of this shit, definitely.
Get out of there.
And the best part is, I want to do it, you know? Like, usually when you're a YouTuber, you look at everything from, oh, I wonder what can get the big views, I wonder what I can put up where everyone's gonna click and I'm gonna get the money and whatnot. Which is fantastic if you can do it. I'm not very good at doing that. Recently, I have put up some Dead Space videos that have irked some people, and they've come and argued in the comments and clicked on those videos and given me a ton of views, which is really nice. But you're getting views from people you don't want to get views from, and they're not there to care about the channel, they're not there to look at the channel, they're not even there to use critical thinking or objective assessment, and are literally defending a remake of a game they never played, which is insane to me. The Socratic method is completely reduced into stupidity and idiocy, which is always frustrating. But I want to make this video, and I think there'll be people just like me that want to know these numbers, so it pays for itself. And that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you for watching. You take care now.